Listen, this AR-15's got to go. I'm sorry. It's,
gotta go.
You know, I haven't always been a gun guy. As a matter of fact, there was probably a time where I was more anti-gun than pro-gun. My journey into gun ownership started with a man from Poland, but probably not in the way that you would think. So I had a chance encounter meeting with a man from Poland. This man had been born and raised in Poland, and his whole life he had dreamed of becoming an American citizen because he was taught in Poland that America is the land of the free, that that's where freedom lives. And so he dreamed of becoming an American citizen so that he could enjoy the freedoms that we enjoy as Americans. So when he was able to, he came to America, became an American citizen, but something that he said to me really stuck with me. He said, by the time I made it to America and was able to become an American citizen, I realized that I had more freedoms in Poland than I did here. So he decided to become an American citizen anyway, because it was his lifelong dream, right? But again, he was surprised that we actually had less freedom than he had in Poland. So what's happened is we've let our government take away our rights little tiny bits at a time. And because we've done that, we didn't notice that we were losing our rights until somebody from Poland moves here who's made it their lifelong goal to become an American citizen so that they could experience freedom, only to realize that we weren't nearly as free as we once were, or as we still think we are. Now, this meeting was probably 23 years ago, but it stuck with me. I still didn't go buy a gun at that time. I still wasn't really sure how I felt about guns per se, but his message really spoke to me. Are we really the land of the free, like we once were? So you might say that I kind of dipped my toe in the water to gun ownership. Well, I became a gun owner. So maybe I didn't just dip my toe, but maybe I did, because I bought one gun, and I only bought that gun because Obama had been elected president, so this was obviously quite some time ago. And everybody was saying Obama was going to take away our gun rights. And what that Polish man said to me really stuck in my head. Really, we're going to lose a constitutional right? We're going to allow the government to take away our constitutional right? And so in my mind, I thought, you know what? No, that's not going to happen. Nobody's going to tell me that as an American, I can't own a gun. So I bought a gun. I became a gun owner, but I wasn't a gun guy. I really only put probably 30, 40 rounds through that gun for pretty much the whole time that I owned it. I didn't really become a gun guy until very recently. So I got into long-range shooting because another guy that I had met many, many, many years ago had built a 50 cal rifle and had shot a watermelon out at a mile. That was actually my very first video, was my first attempt at ever shooting at a mile, and I hadn't really shot much prior to that because I was still recovering from some stuff. So I hadn't really shot very much. I was very brand new to gun ownership besides the pistol that I had bought. If you want to watch that video, it's our very first video that we've ever posted here on YouTube. So obviously, now I'm an all-in Second Amendment. Everybody should have the right to own a gun. I don't care if you're a felon. I don't care if you're an American citizen. You should be allowed to own a gun, and you should be allowed to own any gun that you want because it's a constitutional right, and no one should be able to take that away from you. That's where I'm at now. On top of that, you learn that the Supreme Court has ruled that the government or the police are under no obligation to specifically protect you. And that's a scary thought. When I was anti-gun, much like many anti-gunners are today, the thought is always, well, if anything happens, I'll just call the police. And of course, I was pretty physical, so I figured the cops would be there in 2 to 3 minutes, and I could do anything that I needed to do for 2 or 3 minutes until the cops came in for backup, right? Well, the cops are never 2 to 3 minutes away. It's up to you. On top of that, they have no obligation to protect you. The police in Uvalde have really shown us that that's 100% the case. They will literally not be held accountable in any way whatsoever for their actions because they didn't do anything that they weren't supposed to do. They're not under any obligation to protect us, and that should really be an eye-opening for everybody. All the anti-gunners out there who think, well, you just call the police, or maybe they have private security so they don't really care. It's up to you. It's up to you to defend yourself. I saw a video the other day where a reporter was talking to the teacher who was shot in Uvalde. I want to play a clip from that video.
It all happened too fast. Training, no training, all kinds of training. Nothing gets you ready for this. We trained our kids to sit under the table. And that's what I thought of, at the time. But we set them up to be like ducks. You can give us all the training you want, but it's gun laws have to change. It won't never change unless they change the laws. I will go to the end of the world to make sure things get changed.
So he said nothing is going to change until the laws change. That's absolutely incorrect. The laws can't change. We have a constitutional right to keep and bear arms. We have a responsibility. If you know that the government is under no obligation to protect you, if you know that the government isn't going to protect you, they're going to laugh and joke, they're going to be on their phones, they're going to be getting hand sanitizer while you and your children are being slaughtered, you have to take your own safety into your own hands. If you're a teacher, you have a responsibility to defend yourself, and you have a responsibility to defend those children. To say that nothing's going to change until the laws change is absolutely wrong. If you have a responsibility and you know that the government isn't going to defend you and the government isn't going to protect you, the government can make all the laws that they want. Bad guys are always going to get guns. And let's just say that somehow in some imaginary fairy tale land, they're able to gather up every single gun in the world and throw them in a big old pile and smash them into a big metal block and there's no more guns. What about knives? Okay, so they take all the knives too, right? What about bats? What about bows and arrows? What about cars? What about bombs? You can go to a grocery store and get all the materials that you need to build a bomb. So what, now we're going to outlaw grocery stores too? Evil cannot be legislated out of the world. It's up to you to defend yourself, to defend your family, to defend your children, and to defend my children if they're under your care. So imagine, had that teacher taken the safety of his children and the safety of himself into his own hands and trained and prepared and was properly equipped when that guy walked in to that classroom, if he would have been posted up, if he'd have been aiming at that door, and as soon as he identified the threat, took that threat out, that's how things are going to change. You can't outlaw evil. Evil is always going to be here. We have to take our own defense into our own hands. And that's just how it is. I wish it wasn't. I wish that we never had to worry about evil out there. I wish that I could just shoot targets from long range. I wish that I could just shoot still for fun and just to hear the ring of the still, and that I didn't ever have to think about defending myself or defending my family. But that's not where we're at. Gun violence isn't going to change until everybody realizes that their safety is their own responsibility. And you're not going to win a gunfight without a gun yourself. Imagine if the guy that shot up that parade knew that he was going to be outnumbered 25 to 1, 30 to 1, 100 to 1. Do you think he would have went and shot up that parade? Do you think that he would have had the courage to go 1 against 100? 100 people armed exactly like him. Do you think he would have taken that chance? The shooter in Buffalo, the guy that shot up that food court, he was way overpowered in that scenario. It was a man with a rifle versus a man with a pistol, and he lost. Imagine if it was a man with a rifle versus 10 pistols, or 15 pistols, or 20 pistols. How do you think that would have went? Probably about the same, because it only took 15 seconds to eliminate that threat. But do you think that if he knew that he was going to go shoot up a place where there were probably going to be 30 guns pointed back at him, that he ever would have taken that risk? I doubt it. The one and only time that anybody ever suited up and went to a place where they knew there were going to be a lot of guns pointed back had absolutely zero success in that scenario. And yeah, I feel sorry for the guy. That stinks. That's a horrible deal. Unfortunately, he was lied to. Unfortunately, he believed that his government was going to protect him, and all he had to do was wait for the police. But that's not the world we live in. He should have prepared himself. All those other teachers should have prepared themselves. And you know what? I'm going to say it again. It stinks. It stinks that we all have to arm ourselves. But that's the world that we're living in. Gun violence can absolutely be minimized when a cowardly attacker knows that he's going to be far outnumbered. There won't be mass shootings anymore. Let me end by addressing Whoopi Goldberg and her comments.
Listen, this AR-15's got to go. I'm sorry. It's, you know, there is too much at stake here. Too many lives have been at stake and too many damn little kids. I'm sick of seeing people talk about, well, we should do something. No, we should do something. And I don't care, NRA. You got to give that gun up. You can have your other yeehaw guns, whatever you want. The AR-15
has to go.
Is not a hunting gun.
It's a weapon
It is
of war.
not a gun where you're going to go out and shoot your dinner. This gun is meant to kill people. That's what it's for, and you can't have it anymore. And I'm not even going to tell you how pissed I am that so many folks are saying, well, you can't have what you need for your body. Forget my body. You can't have this gun because it kills people and children, and I'm sick of it.
That's what happens when someone who has no idea what they're talking about decides to open up their mouth and say something that they think they know. She wants to take away the AR-15 and we can have all the rest of our yeehaw guns, right? Okay, cool. Take the AR-15. I'll keep my AR-10. This is the bullet that is fired by an AR-10, and this is the bullet that's fired by an AR-15. So she says the AR-15 is not a hunting rifle. Again, wrong. Hop on YouTube. You'll see videos of people hunting with AR-15s, hundreds by the hundreds or by the thousands or the hundreds of thousands. I don't even know. But this is absolutely a hunting gun. This shoots a .308 Winchester. My AR-10 also shoots a .308 Winchester. My AR-10 is absolutely a hunting gun. But guess what? It is far more devastating than a 5.56 by a bunch. And I can magazine feed a 25-round magazine into that AR-10. Do far more damage. So you want to take away the AR-15? That's not going to change anything because there's AR-10s, there's semi-automatic rifles. Do you think that somebody can't come up with an AR-9 or an AR-11 or an AR-16 or an AR-14? You want to ban the AR-15? That doesn't do anything. We have so many people that are depending on our government to protect them and to defend them. And as the Uvalde situation showed us, that's just not going to happen. And I'm not saying that there aren't good police officers out there. I have police officers in my family. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that the police can't be everywhere at all times. And just like every other industry, they're hurting for people. They need warm bodies. And so they're hiring people that don't have that natural protector instinct to be police officers. And they're just not able to do the job. They're there for the money, not because they have a sense of duty to protect their fellow man. And that's a shame.